the heart of this nation, under skies so blue,
there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true.
from the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe.
Welcome, you deep divers. Today we're getting into a story that just, well, it refuses to die no matter how hard officials try to bury it.
It really is something. We're talking, obviously, about Jeffrey Epstein.
Exactly. And specifically, the recent developments that were supposed to bring closure, but seem to have done the opposite. Ignited even more fascination, more questions.
Yeah, it's kind of blown up again. Our deep dive today is pulling from some recent articles, especially one from the American Conservative, looking at these, let's say, latest twists in the political fallout, which has been pretty unexpected in some ways.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack why. Why does this case keep sparking such intense reactions? Why the uncomfortable questions that won't go away? And how is it challenging, established political narratives?
We need to look at the different angles, the inconsistencies that keep popping up, and just the sheer symbolic weight this whole affair carries.
Okay, so let's start with that initial shockwave, the memo from the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Right. The memo that declared the Epstein case officially closed. It made two really big claims. First, no evidence of any, quote, incriminating client list.
The famous list.
The famous list, yeah. And second, that they'd conclusively determined Epstein died by suicide. Case closed.
You'd think, okay, DOJ, FBI, official statement, maybe that settles things.
You would think. But our sources show it did the exact opposite. It sparked this huge backlash, especially, and maybe surprisingly, on the American right.
Yeah, among many of Trump's biggest supporters, right? Which led to him actually getting more heat from his own base than usual. That's pretty rare.
It is rare. So why didn't this official closure land? Well, the public just wasn't buying it.
The poll numbers were striking, weren't they?
Absolutely striking. Get this. Only 4% of Republicans and just 3% of Democrats said they were satisfied with the information release.
Wow. 3 and 4%.
Yeah. One CNN analyst called it ridiculously low. So clearly, official closure did not mean public acceptance. If anything, it just fueled more suspicion.
Okay, so if the public isn't satisfied, that brings us to some, let's call them interesting shifts in messaging, especially from some prominent conservative voices.
Very interesting shifts. Take Mark Levin, the Fox News host. Remember back in the spring, he was interviewing Pam Bondi.
Yeah.
He was really pushing her, asking about the Epstein list, demanding names of perpetrators, saying the American people were very curious, very much leaning into the public demand for answers.
Okay, so he was on board with getting more info out.
Totally. But then, after that DOJ memo came out declaring the case closed,
What happened?
he did a complete 180.
Yeah.
Suddenly, he's on X, calling people, still asking questions, Epsteinian cooks. And he's siding right with Trump, defending Bondi.
Wow, okay. From we need answers to your cooks for asking. That's quite a pivot.
It really is. And he wasn't alone. Ben Shapiro at the Daily Wire. He basically told his audience, it's time to change your view on Epstein. Like a direct instruction.
So multiple big voices making this sudden shift. What does the source material suggest is going on there?
Well, the source we looked at points out that some of these figures, described as pro-Israel hawks and neoconservatives and Levin and Shapiro, are often put in that category, known for very strong pro-Israel, anti-Iran views.
Okay.
They seem to be trying to stigmatize anyone questioning the official story, basically label them as fringe or conspiratorial to shut down the discussion.
The source draws a parallel, right? Saying it's like how some activists might label critics transphobic to silence them.
Exactly. That's the comparison made. The argument is it's a tactic to bully people into silence, but the source also adds, quite pointedly, it doesn't work anymore.
Suggesting the public isn't intimidated by that kind of labeling on this issue.
That seems to be the implication. People are still asking questions.
Which leads us naturally to one of the biggest, most persistent questions out there. The speculation about Epstein being some kind of intelligence asset.
Yeah, this isn't a new theory, but it's definitely gained a lot more traction lately, especially, again, in the wake of that memo that seemed to close things off too neatly for some.
And Tucker Carlson has been really vocal about this.
Very vocal. He claimed pretty bluntly that every single person in Washington, D.C. believes Epstein was running a blackmail operation.
Wow. Every single person. That's a strong claim.
It is. And he added, crucially, that it was likely on behalf of intelligence services, but probably not American.
Okay, so pointing fingers, potentially, at a foreign intelligence agency?
And Carlson was very direct about naming names, or at least suggesting where people should look. He stressed it's okay to ask these questions.
What did he say exactly?
He said, there is nothing wrong with saying that the foreign government is Israel. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There is nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. He's basically legitimizing that specific line of inquiry.
Saying the question itself isn't out of bounds?
Precisely. And it's not just Carlson. You see echoes elsewhere. Cenk Uygur, a progressive commentator, he noted how quiet some of the neocon crowd were about the Epstein files.
What did he make of that silence?
He suggested it might be telling on themselves or telling on their beloved Israel, connecting their silence directly to that same speculation that Epstein's trafficking might have been part of a government-backed operation to compromise powerful people.
So you're seeing this speculation bubble up across different parts of the political spectrum.
And even in Congress, you had Senator Mike Lee, Republican from Utah, asking point blank if Epstein worked for intelligence.
Really? In a hearing or?
Publicly raising the question. And then Congressman Thomas Massey, Republican from Kentucky, he did a poll on X, asked his followers if they thought Epstein was a government intelligence asset.
What were the results?
Overwhelming. 94% said yes. Now, that's an X poll, not scientific, but it shows the extent of the belief out there.
94%. Wow. It really taps into a deep vein of public suspicion.
Absolutely. Which makes Pam Bondi's response even more notable.
Right. She was asked directly about this, wasn't she? If Epstein worked for any intelligence agency, American or foreign.
Yeah. And her answer was, to him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that.
We can get back to you on that.
The source described it as giving the impression she'd literally never even considered the possibility, which for someone so involved seems, well, odd.
A very conspicuous non-answer, you could say.
You could definitely say that. And it just feeds into the feeling that the official memo, far from closing the book, actually opened up more lines of questioning or highlighted existing ones.
Because the memo itself seemed to contradict things we already knew or thought we knew.
Exactly. Take the blackmail angle. The memo flatly denies any evidence Epstein blackmailed prominent people.
Okay, official position, no blackmail evidence.
But then you have the Wall Street Journal. They reported pretty specifically that Epstein did try to leverage knowledge of Bill Gates' affair with a Russian bridge player. He apparently threatened Gates with that information.
So a major newspaper report directly contradicting the DOJ FBI memo's claim. That's significant.
It's a huge discrepancy. And it makes you ask, well, why did Epstein bug his homes? We know he had concealed cameras everywhere.
Right, there were accounts from victims.
Yeah, an accuser mentioned seeing pinhole cameras, including in bedrooms and bathrooms, and talked about a media room where strange men were monitoring private moments.
He's monitoring for what, if not leverage or blackmail? It doesn't make sense otherwise.
It really doesn't. And then there's the whole issue with the evidence itself. This is quite alarming.
What happened there?
The FBI apparently lost track of binders. Binders containing CDs, hard drives, diamonds, even passports, all seized from Epstein's mansion in New York.
They lost track of evidence in a case this big.
That's the report. And then later, this material was apparently returned by one of Epstein's lawyers.
Returned by the suspect's lawyer. How does that work?
It raises serious questions about the chain of custody, the integrity of the investigation, what happened to that evidence while it was missing? Was it tampered with? We just don't know.
That's deeply concerning. And it feeds into the biggest unanswered question of all, perhaps.
Which is?
His money. Where did it all come from?
Ah, yes. The fundamental mystery. How did this guy, with, let's be honest, unclear professional achievements, become a supposed multimillionaire, maybe even a billionaire?
Right. Where did this incredible wealth originate? No one's ever given a clear, credible answer for that.
And without that piece, the whole picture feels incomplete, suspicious even. It leaves room for all sorts of speculation, including the intelligence asset theory.
Okay, so given all these unanswered questions, these contradictions, the public distrust, it makes sense why this story has such political staying power, especially involving someone like President Trump.
Absolutely. And Trump himself has been trying really hard to shut it down, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Very aggressively. His Truth Social posts calling it a Jeffrey Epstein hoax, blaming it on Obama and Clinton.
And attacking his own supporters, calling them weaklings for even caring about it.
Which is extraordinary, attacking your own base like that. But you mentioned something interesting earlier about the reaction to that post.
Yeah, that post got ratioed on Truth Social, which means it got way more negative replies and comments than likes or reposts. And apparently that was a first for him on his own platform.
A first, getting ratioed on his own social media site.
That's what the source indicates. It shows just how risky this strategy is for him. His base isn't just falling in line behind him on this one. They care about Epstein.
And there's another layer here too, isn't there? The Israel connection.
Right. The source material points out that this whole scandal seems to, quote, synergize with Israel critical views that are gaining prominence.
How so?
Well, Epstein had, as the source puts it, numerous ties to the Jewish state, including a known close relationship with a former Israeli prime minister, Ehud Barak.
Okay. And this connects to broader trends.
It seems to. It's happening at a time when public opinion in the U.S. towards Israel is shifting. That Pew Research survey you mentioned earlier.
Showing 53% of U.S. adults now have an unfavorable view of Israel.
Exactly. And more people are questioning the large amounts of U.S. aid going there. So the suggestion is, when Trump tries so hard to squash the Epstein story,
People might perceive it as him doing it for Israel because of those connections.
that's the implication raised in the source, that it feeds into a narrative that Trump is protecting certain interests, possibly Israeli interests, by trying to bury the Epstein questions.
Which, for his base, the Magie movement must be complicated, because the Epstein story itself seems to resonate so deeply with them.
Oh, incredibly so. The source says it has too much symbolic significance for MAGA to simply move on.
Why is it so symbolic for them?
It taps right into that core narrative of a secretive network of transnational elites. Elites who, in this view, are literally getting away with heinous crimes against ordinary American kids, working-class kids, and they're evading accountability.
So it represents everything they oppose. Secretive power, elite corruption, lack of accountability.
Precisely. It's a perfect storm of symbolism for that movement, which is why the prediction is this story. It won't ever fully go away.
Like JFK.
Yeah, the source literally suggests it could join the ranks of the JFK assassination in, quote, the annals of America's counter-establishment obsessions.
Wow. That's quite a statement. And the fact that awkward details about Trump's own past relationship with Epstein keeps surfacing.
That just keeps pouring fuel on the fire. It makes it impossible for him to completely distance himself, no matter how hard he tries.
Which brings us back to that advice someone apparently gave Trump in one of the source articles.
Right. Simple advice. The truth will set you free.
Meaning, maybe stop trying to cover it up or dismiss it. Just investigate it transparently.
That seems to be the idea. That transparency, however uncomfortable, might be the only way to actually address the public's deep-seated concerns and maybe, just maybe, move past this.
So wrapping this up for you, our listeners, why does this Epstein affair keep echoing? Why doesn't the official story satisfy?
Well, as we've seen, it's because the official narrative just feels incomplete, even contradictory to so many people. There are just too many unanswered questions.
Questions about blackmail, about the source of his wealth, about potential intelligence connections, about the integrity of the investigation itself.
Exactly. And the political implications are huge, touching on everything from shifting voter sentiments about foreign allies to deep-seated distrust of elites.
And that urge we all have, that drive to understand complex things, to ask, what really happened here? Who was involved? Why is this being handled this way? That's fundamental, isn't it? Especially now with so much information, so many competing stories flying around.
It really is. It's about trying to find the truth, or at least get closer to it.
So maybe I have a final thought for you to consider. If powerful people, powerful entities seem willing to go to such lengths to shape or control a narrative like this one, what does that suggest about the other information we consume every day? And maybe more importantly, what questions are we being subtly encouraged not to ask?
That's definitely something worth mulling over. A lot to think about there.
In the heart of this nation, under skies so blue, there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true. From the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart